The Film Basement is filmed in sunny West Hartford, Connecticut, in front of a live studio audience.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Filmmaker's Basement. I'm Bernie Gasparino.
And I'm Edward Webb. And on today's show, we have a lot of entertainment news and reviews to get to.
And our first review today is The Lighthouse. So Lighthouse, funnily enough, is about two men contracted with maintaining a lighthouse on a remote New England island. However, they become tasked with maintaining their own sanity as a massive storm traps them on this lonely, deserted island. On a technical level, this film is a masterpiece with gorgeous cinematography, set design, sound design, the full works. Couple that with stellar performances from its two leads, Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, and a fascinatingly mysterious plot, The Lighthouse is an extremely strange, dramatic, and sometimes hilarious puzzle. Oh man, yeah, so this film is... I went into this film expecting it to be one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen, and I came out knowing that this was one of the weirdest movies that I've ever seen.
That's what I love to hear.
Yeah, exactly, because the trailer made it look like it was going to be so strange and like very dramatic and weird, and like it's partially that, but then it's also really friggin' funny. Like there's just some odd comedy that comes up throughout this movie. That's like, for instance, like one of Willem Dafoe's main gags is that he's constantly farting. And
what?
Yeah, right? It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, like in the first 5 minutes of the film, like they're dramatically walking into the lighthouse, door closes, they're not talking to each other, they get into their rooms, and then out of the corner of the ear, just a little toot, Willem Dafoe walks by on the screen. You're just like, what's happening?
Did 12-year-old make this?
Yeah, exactly. But then it's like, it's also extremely dramatic. Like you have some scenes where you're just like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, geez, they're just really going hard at it. Yeah, Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe really just get really in depth to their characters, like to the point where you're just like, are they okay? Like,
did they go too far into their process?
There was definitely some info I found out after this. So like, there's one scene with Robert Pattinson where he's, I guess the nice way of putting this is yanking his Johnny.
I think you could find a nicer way.
Yeah, there would have been. It didn't come to me, but he apparently was just doing that on set. So they really didn't hold back in making this film.
And it made it into the film?
Oh, it made it into the film. You know, once you get to that scene, you know exactly what's happening. But it's also, it's never like, it doesn't feel bad when you're watching it, because of course you don't know that's what actually happened on set at the time. That's just a thing they did, and it's weird, but whatever.
So I feel like this goes without question, but would you recommend this to children?
Eddie, of course I'd recommend this to children. No, I don't think I'd recommend this to most moviegoers. This isn't like your typical blockbuster film. This is more art housey. Yeah. I wouldn't say it pushes the limit to being an avant-garde film, like just really being out there. But I think like as it is, it's very arty. The cinematography, like on a technical level, this film's beautiful. Like the lighthouse set itself, it's so gorgeous.
It looks great.
Oh yeah, it looks so good, and like there's so many shots in that movie that are just, they're like mind-blowingly good. But unless you're really into that, I don't think you're gonna want to see this movie. It's not really gonna, because at the end of the day, it raises so many questions and it doesn't answer them. And for like a film student like us, that's something we kind of want to see. Like it's very interesting and thought-provoking. For most people who kind of just want to see like dumb action, like in Gemini Man, which made like $120 million already apparently. It has.
No, it did not.
In domestic and foreign box office combined, it's made $120 million.
Well, England gets a lot of love.
Whereas this movie's only going to make $2 million, but it's only made $2 million so far. But yeah, if you are really into art house films, I would highly recommend watching this movie. It's totally worth the see. It's especially to support like independent filmmaking, kind of like this.
I'll be sure to get out and see it. So my review this week is Dolemite, which I watched in honor of the new Eddie Murphy vehicle, Dolemite Is My Name. So I revisited this classic blaxploitation film. And for me, a large part of the entertainment value comes from just how committed the writer and star Rudy Ray Moore is to the titular role of Dolemite. Before shooting Dolemite, Moore was a comedian who originally came up with the character Dolemite for his comedy shtick. However, he plays Dolemite as straight as humanly possible. There's no like wink to the audience when it comes in playing Dolemite. He truly believed that he is just sort of this untouchable, like super pimp, really. And even though there's, the signature immature style that comes with most blaxploitation films and all this off-kilter action, Dolemite is still much more fun than many of the high-budget blockbusters that we get every month or so.
Okay, so what year did this movie even come out in?
This movie came out the same year that Rocky did, so 1975.
Oh man, wow. So, can you even try to explain what's happening? What is this movie? What even is happening?
It's literally we just follow Dolemite and hijinks ensues.
Hijinks ensues.
And it's very easy to see how he feels like he's this untouchable super pimp because he kind of is. Even when the opening scenes we get is him being arrested, and then he just sort of beats the shit out the cops. He kicks one cop into a trunk.
Wait, does it do the gag where he kicks into the trunk and the trunk closes?
No.
Oh,
I wish they did.
Darn it.
They kick him to the trunk. He kicks him. He falls straight backwards and then to the side and then falls into a trunk. And then his head starts bleeding and he comes out and points a gun at Dolemite. He's like, "You're going down,
That's
Dolemite."
Hilarious.
And then, and then the next scene is literally him being released from jail as all of his women come out, and then they unchange him in public, right outside the prison gates, and then they just sort of drive off. And then, this movie is just so insane. I don't know how to describe it.
I mean, it seems like it's totally a product of its times. In that vein, who would you recommend watch this movie?
Honestly, I would recommend it to film buffs, because the blaxploitation movement was sort of a pretty big part in the film industry at the time, and it sort of is I say sort of a lot. It's kind of like I don't want to say blueprint for the indie film movement because it already was underway, but a lot of these do show you how you can make great indie films for the price of a Big Mac. And then still have success. This movie went on to make around $12 million. So on a budget of a cup of Pepsi.
Yeah, no kidding.
Literally not a bottle, a cup of Pepsi.
Cup. Like a McDonald's cup of Pepsi.
Like a water cup that you get from a restaurant filled with Pepsi.
Okay, so you use the term black exploitation. How would you describe that to our audience? What does that mean?
Just sort of just a wave of films that came out that followed, black people in more seedy environments. Most of the protagonists were pimps or prostitutes, and to just see them go through these, very dark and crime-infested environments.
Interesting. Well, I'm definitely curious to see what this movie is about on a different level from The Lighthouse, just more of a morbid curiosity. And in that similar vein of morbid curiosity, we got some new Star Wars news that came out. So, the new trailer for Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker dropped on Monday. In the trailer, we hear the voices of Rey, Poe, Kylo Ren, and Emperor Palpatine. At the end, we hear Luke say, "The Force will be with you," and Leia ends it with, "Always." Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker is the final installment of the Skywalker story and comes to theaters on December 20th. So, Eddie, what did you think of this trailer?
It just kind of played like the average Star Wars trailer to me. I've never been the biggest Star Wars fan, so I'm not going to rush out to see this.
Of course.
But it does look very enjoyable. Coming off of the last Star Wars, though, I'm very sort of concerned because although I didn't see it, I heard nothing but terrible things, even though the film is pretty acclaimed for the most part.
Yeah, so the biggest thing I've got about this movie is the space horses. What are they? Who are they? Where are they from? What do they do? What is their reason for being in the Star War? What is
the Star War?
What is the space horse? If you can answer this question for me, J.J. Abrams, I would love to know what the space horse has to do. Riding in space on a Star Destroyer.
They're just very efficient. There's not a lot of pollution. There's methane.
Okay.
That comes with it, I guess. But
interesting.
Other than that, you don't want to see them driving in cars.
How many miles to the gallon do they get?
Probably 45.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
You just gotta feed them.
I need a good space horse in my life. Besides that very critical review of the trailer, it seems kind of like a retread of Return of the Jedi. I used to be kind of a big Star Wars fan, but I don't feel like I am anymore, especially after the new Disney stuff that they've been doing.
It's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, it just doesn't do it for me anymore, man. It's just I don't know what it is. Like, it's just too much Star Wars. Like, when I was watching Star Wars as a kid, I'd be like, well, there's no more. I wish there would be someday, but there'll never be any.
Well, we had the prequels.
Yeah. Oh, I was still a kid when that was a thing. So I was like, when I heard George Lucas say in like 2006, I'm never making another one. I was like, well,
It's a great impression.
That's the end of it. But now it's like, oh yeah, now we're getting Star Wars every year. It's like, this is actually kind of tiring. Like, I don't know if I wanted this actually, because I mean, not all of them are that great. Like the Rian Johnson one, admittedly, all better than the prequels. The prequels are garbage, but even still, like it just doesn't feel like it did when I was watching those movies as a kid. So, for me, I mean, I'll be curious to see how it turns out. I mean, I might check it out in theaters if it gets like somewhat decent reviews, but. I mean, besides that, I don't know if I'm too hyped for it. Like, I wish I was. The younger me would be killing me right now if I didn't know that. But speaking of movies that are actually coming back to have a bit of hype around them, Eddie, what do we got coming out?
So, this week, early reviews are heralding the new Dr. Sleep as the best Stephen King adaptation since The Shawshank Redemption, meaning It Chapter, all of the It's, The Mist, The Green Mile could all move out the way because Dr. Sleep is coming to town on November 8th. The film takes place 40 years after the events of The Shining and follows a traumatized Danny Torrance who has finally found peace with all of the horrific events that took place at the Overlook Hotel, only to have that one little ounce of peace shattered once he discovers a teenager named Abra who also has the power known as the Shine.
So, I feel like I was interested when this trailer came out. Like, it seemed like it would be kind of cool. My girlfriend, who is a big fan of The Shining, she didn't really like the trailer at all. She was like, oh God, they're just going to ruin it like they did with all the other ones. And it's like, I mean, to a point, that's right. Usually Stephen King's sequels aren't particularly good. Like, he's a good, like, first book man.
Yeah.
Second book, not so much. But, like...
Have you ever seen the
I'm
second
interested.
Pet Cemetery movie?
There's a second Pet Sematary movie?
Exactly.
I didn't even know there was a first Pet Sematary movie that came... I knew the new one.
It's actually pretty good.
Are you talking about the new one? Or
No,
is there
the
like
original.
an ancient...
There's like one that came out in the 80s.
Whoa, I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's actually pretty decent, but
Okay.
a lot of people kind of forget about the poor sequel to that movie.
I mean, there's a lot of Stephen King sequels like that. Like, what was the one with like the flying meatballs? What was that one called?
I don't know.
You don't know? It's like a plane gets trapped in an alternate reality where there's like giant like monsters that look like meatballs with teeth that eat
Salem's
reality.
Lot?
It might be that. Oh,
I just threw
remember.
anyone out there. Don't
Okay,
take my word for it.
let's say it's Salem's Lot because that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how it turns out.
Yeah, and I was too. The trailer didn't really wow me, but I do like Mike Flanagan. I think The Haunting on Hill House is one of the better TV, especially TV horror shows that came out in recent years.
Oh yeah, totally.
And with the good reviews coming out so far, my hopes are a little high. And
Yeah.
we're still in the spooky season, so I like to see some nice horror. And
Yeah.
it also gives me a good excuse to rewatch The Shining.
And just to clarify, I assume Mike Flanagan's directing it.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah. I
Yes.
mean, if it's gonna be anything like Hill House, like, oh man, this is gonna be really good. Man, I love that series so much.
It's so good.
It really is. Oh man. Speaking of things that were really good in getting a sequel, Fantastic Beasts 3 is set to start filming in February, according to Dan Folger, who played Jacob Kowalski in the first two Fantastic Beasts films. According to comicbook.com, Folger said on stage at LeakyCon 2019 Boston, "We haven't started filming yet. We started in February. Last we heard JK, she's been writing furiously. Everyone was really happy with what she submitted, and we're all just waiting for that new script." And that's where we're at. The Fantastic Beasts films are a prequel to the popular Harry Potter film set in the 1920s. Originally, Fantastic Beasts 3 was set for a November 20th, 2020 release, and now has been pushed back to November 12th, 2021. So I haven't really, I can admit, I didn't really see the Fantastic Beasts films.
Me neither.
Yeah, I was about to say. So I'm not really a big Harry Potter fan, but I mean, good for them. They're getting a third movie in the trilogy. I mean, I'm not actually sure if it is a trilogy. We're gonna have to find out if that is in fact the case.
Yeah, they might still be going after this one.
Yeah, they might be, but I think I heard some mention that like the second movie wasn't that good or something like that.
Yeah, the first one had pretty adequate reviews. Nothing to knock your socks off.
Yeah.
But still good nonetheless. While the second one was muddled in a lot of issues, which this is all hearsay, of course, but for the most part, I heard that it just got boggled down in a lot of just bad storytelling for the most part.
Okay, well, hopefully it seems like they're taking a little bit to actually rectify that issue. Pushing the release date back by a year is really going to help to make sure that
Yeah.
movie is good. But
Because a lot of other studios, they'll just try to strike while the iron's hot, you know, because it
DC.
still made a good amount of money, a healthy amount of money, if you
Yeah.
will. So you would think that they'll just kind of try to, you know, just iron this one out, hammer this one out as soon as they can. But to see that they're actually taking time with this one is actually kind of hopeful.
yeah, it is definitely hopeful. Though admittedly, that's also has the caveat where if it's not good, people are going to be real pissed it took an extra year to make this film come out.
You had ample amount of time, and this is what you did?
Yeah, exactly. And especially with the J.K. Rowling's kind of track record after writing all the Harry Potter books with her going back and revising history and changing things and doing all her crazy shenanigans. But yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to see kind of where it ends up. I mean, I don't know if I'll personally check it out. Like, that doesn't seem like it's going to be a me movie, but
Yeah.
I mean, if it gets good reviews, who knows? Might be something worth
Might catch it
catching.
on VOD one day.
Yeah, that definitely seems like a video-on-demand movie. Yeah, especially with the good back catalog of movies, much like the James Bond film they're working on right now.
So, here's a little spoiler alert for anyone interested in the next James Bond film. If you don't want to know what happens, hit mute now. Okay, you've been warned. According to The Mirror, in the newest James Bond film, No Time to Die, James Bond, played by Daniel Craig, gets married to Madeline Swan, who was in James Bond's last film, Spectre. According to a source in the newest James Bond film, Bond says, "Morning, Mrs. Bond." Madeline, played by Lee Seydoux, says, "Don't you mean Mrs. Swan?" The article goes on to say, after Madeline's response, Bond looks at her in an admiring way, is why he married her. She, like him, is tough and independent, the daughter of a gangster. The newest Bond film has wrapped filming this week on Friday. No Time to Die is set for an April 2020 release.
Wow, that is the most Bond movie name title I've ever heard.
It really is. Also, you can all uncover your ears now.
Yeah, you can. Well, we're still gonna be talking about it, but yeah, no, you can uncover your ears for sure. So has James Bond ever been married before? Has that been a thing?
Yes, and one of the older ones, I forgot who the Bond was, but I believe the movie was called Our Queen's. I don't remember, honestly.
Yeah. Your Majesty's Royal Service or something like that?
That's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like an interesting style choice, especially considering this has only happened once before. That's like, since this is Daniel Craig's last Bond movie, and like he's married now, it's like, well, maybe hopefully they're just gonna like see them both out together. He'll give up the title of James Bond, and they'll walk away from this wole spy thing.
Yeah, nobody has to die. We could just actually get a nice ending for once. That's too hard, Hollywood.
Yeah, hasn't like many bad things happened to like James Bond?
Yes. Even in the last time that Daniel Craig had a love interest that he was actually serious about in Casino Royale, she ended up dying.
Of course. As it should be.
Which is kind of why he's sworn off ever having romantic relationships. So hopefully, history does not repeat itself this time.
Yeah, definitely. I like to have Daniel Craig after his long run have like a nice, like almost like Doctor Who ending where it's just a nice send off. He goes away, he transforms into a being of light or whatever, and then we get the new James Bond coming out in the next couple of years. Which is another thing to kind of start speculating on. Who's going to be the next Bond?
If it's not Idris Elba, we ride.
I was about to say it should be Idris Elba. Honestly, he'd be such a good Bond.
Idris Elba, Tom Hardy, possibly Michael Fassbender. If it's not either of them, we riot in the streets.
I mean, it should be Jared Leto, really. I mean, if we're gonna get a new James Bond, I mean, we know the man.
Or Paul Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti.
Of New Haven royalty.
Will Arnett.
Any upcoming films?
Okay, so speaking of the upcoming movies we got, so this weekend we got a few movies. So we got Terminator: Dark Fate, Harriet, and Motherless Brooklyn. We also failed to mention that we also had JoJo's Rabbit come out this weekend.
And also, The Irishman will be hitting select theaters.
Yes, The Irishman will be coming out. So, Ed, what are you excited to see?
JoJo Rabbit, out of all of these,
Just same.
Taika Waititi, I still probably butchered.
Wait, what did you just say?
How do you pronounce it, please?
Taika Waititi?
Taika Waititi. I wasn't that far off.
Taika Waitata?
Taika Waititi.
Make sure to tag him in post. Tag him when we put this up.
One of my more favorite filmmakers in Hollywood, even though I just butchered his name. And just to see that not only is this movie actually coming out, but just the fact he got like funding for this.
Yeah, really. It's like such a weird concept that like we're following this kid who's in the Hitler Youth, who also has an imaginary best friend who's Hitler, and he finds a Jewish girl hiding in his house. Like, I'm sorry, what?
And the fact that he's actually played by the director, Taka.
Yeah, that was a bold choice on
Very
his
bold.
part. Like, I mean, I totally get why he did it. Like, if anyone, as a director, you should like, if you were not comfortable doing something like that on set, you shouldn't force someone else to do that.
Yeah.
And like, that's such a bold move for him to be like, yeah, I'm gonna be Hitler.
Yeah, very respectable.
Well,
Well,
yeah, it's respectable in the way that it's like, yeah, good on him for doing it. I don't know if you're gonna regret that in 20 years, but good on you for
Yeah.
doing that.
what else was coming out?
Terminator Dark. I mean,
It's kind of dead on arrival to me.
yeah, it's just that franchise is such a freaking mess at this point. Like, I'm not really too excited to be seeing that.
Yeah, they kind of rode the wheels off of it.
Really. And
Harriet is, you know what you're gonna get with Harriet.
Yeah, it seems like it's gonna be like a historical costume drama almost.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's fine. I'm wondering if it's gonna be like Oscar bait almost, because the trailers kind of make it seem like that. So I'm almost wondering if it's gonna be like an Oscar grab movie, or if it's
too.
actually just gonna be like a good historical film.
I was thinking the same, but I still feel like it's a little too early just to roll out the Oscar films just yet.
That is true. Yeah, we are a few months away from that, but I don't know. Who knows? We'll see how that ends up.
What about the Edward Norton vehicle, Motherless Brooklyn?
Yeah. So I think you explained to me earlier that this was like he directed this. He's writing it. He's in it. Like,
Yes.
He's just doing everything.
He's literally carrying the weight of Motherless Brooklyn on his shoulders. And I've heard decent things about it, so I might check it out. I thought it was like 3 hours long. To my surprise, it wasn't, so I definitely may give it.
That's
a
really
little-
good.
a little
And
check.
finally, Flaked Update of the Week. Have you seen Flaked yet?
So,
And we'd like to thank our live studio audience for being here tonight. So this has been this has been Brandon Gasparino,
and I've been Edward Webb.
and we'd love to thank you guys for watching.